Hello, my name is Chen, and today I'll be presenting about a trade issue that Australia is facing, which is China's recent trade retaliation. This issue has garnered significant attention in recent years, as it not only affected specific industries, but have also sparked broader discussions about the intricacies of international trade, diplomatic relations, and Australia's strategic positioning in the Asia-Pacific region. Next, we'll delve into the root causes of China's trade retaliation against Australia, examine the industries most affected by these measures, analyze the economic consequences for both countries, and explore potential avenues for resolution or mitigation. Now, let's start. The story begins in 2009, a landmark year when China surpassed Japan to become Australia's largest international customer. This marked the beginning of a flourishing trade relationship, encompassing a diverse array of Australian goods and services, from beef and wine to education and tourism. Fast forward to November 2014, a pivotal moment as both nations forged a comprehensive strategic partnership, signaling a commitment to deeper collaboration across various sectors. This was followed by China's initiative to establish the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank in March 2015, further solidifying their economic ties. In December 2015, the signing of the China-Australia Free Trade Agreement (CHAFTA) was hailed as a milestone, promising increased market access and tariff reductions for both parties. However, beneath the surface, tensions began to simmer. June 2016 witnessed a turning point as China refused to participate in an international arbitration panels, ruling in favor of Philippines regarding the South China Sea dispute. This marked a shift in Australia's stance, with then Foreign Minister Julie Bishop calling on China to abide by international rulings, sparking a diplomatic standoff. By January 2017, amidst growing power competition between China and the US, Australia found itself caught in the cross currents. Minister Bishop's remarks in Los Angeles underscored Australia's alignment with US leadership in the Indo-Pacific region. This further strained relations with China. Minister Bishop's suggestion in March 2017 that China's lack of democracy made it less trustworthy in following international rules worsened the already strained relationship between the two countries. In December 2017, former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's accusations of the Chinese Communist Party's involvement in Australian institutions made the relationship even worse. This led to a strong reaction from Beijing and a diplomatic standoff. The tensions came to a head in May 2018 when Australian wine shipments faced delays at Chinese ports, allegedly due to political tensions between the two countries. This incident underscored the fragility of China-Australia trade relationship, fraught with geopolitical complexities and competing interests. However, these incidents are not isolated. They are part of a larger pattern of distrust and discord. In August 2018, the Australian government's decision to block Chinese companies Huawei and ZTE from participating in the country's 5G rollout strained relations further. Similarly, the Productivity Commission report in 2016 highlighted Australian government restrictions on Chinese imports and inbound investment, deepening mutual suspicion. The friction begins with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in April 2020, when Australian Minister Marise Payne called for an independent review mechanism to examine the development of this epidemic. This call for transparency triggered a swift response from the Chinese ambassador in Canberra, Chang Jingye, who raised the prospect of Chinese consumers turning away from Australian goods and services in retaliation. Adding fuel to the fire, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison's tweet about discussing the World Health Organization with the former US President Trump further exacerbated tensions. This public alignment with the US signaled Australia's willingness to challenge China's influence in global health governance. These actions, viewed collectively, constituted a betrayal of promise in the eyes of China. In response, China imposed a series of sanctions in 2020, including anti-dumping tariffs and restrictions on Australian goods such as barley, wine, beef, lobster, coal, and timber. These punitive measures inflicted heavy damage on the Australian market, further escalating tensions between the two nations. In the next slide, we'll be talking about the industries and countries impacted by China's actions. First, let's talk about barley. Back in November 2018, China initiated anti-dumping actions on Australia's barley exports, kicking off what's known as the barley investigation. Fast forward to May 2020, China slapped a hefty duty of 73.6% on Australian barley, dubbed the barley tariff. This move dealt a severe blow to Australia's barley farmers, disrupting the agricultural sector and causing significant financial strain. Moving on to the wine, things took a similar turn. In August 2020, China imposed anti-dumping actions on Australia's wine exports, sparking the wine investigation. By March 2021, the situation escalated dramatically, with China imposing anti-dumping duties ranging from 116.2% to a staggering 218.4% on Australian wine. This essentially halted wine exports to China, devastating the Australian wine industry and leaving winemakers grappling with unprecedented challenges. But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about beef. In May 2020, China suspended imports of beef from 4 major Australian abattoirs, citing labeling and health certificate issues. This suspension hit hard, affecting key beef exporters and costing the industry hundreds of millions of dollars revenue losses. The ripple effects were felt far and wide. And then there's lobster. Chinese customs officials left tons of live lobsters stranded at airports and clearance houses, causing delays and financial losses for Australian lobster fishermen. It's yet another blow to an already struggling sector. Moving beyond food, let's discuss coal. China blocked Australian coal imports, citing environmental concerns, and directed state-owned importers to seek coal from other suppliers like Indonesia. These moves disrupted Australia's coal exports, impacting revenue streams and forcing coal miners to scramble for alternative markets. Even timber wasn't spared. China restricted timber log imports to safeguard against pests, impacting Australia's timber industry and trade dynamic. And let's not forget about education and tourism. Beijing recommends foreign visitors not to visit Australia in June 2020, referencing violence and racism against Chinese citizens, in fact related to COVID-19. On the other hand, the Ministry of Education in China advises students to reconsider studying in Australia. Evaluating the impact from a finance perspective, China's sanctions directly caused a reduction in demand for Australian goods as mentioned in previous slides. The decrease in demand has directly affected the revenue and profitability of Australian exporters in those sectors. In terms of supply chain disruptions, Australian exporters may struggle to fulfill existing contracts with Chinese importers and experience delays or cancellations in shipments. As a result, these companies may experience financial strain, reduced cash flow, and lower profitability, impacting their ability to access financing and investing in growth initiatives. The escalation of trade tensions between both countries can also affect investor confidence and market sentiment in Australia's finance industry. A reduction in exports to China can lead to a slower economic growth and lower GDP growth rates, impacting overall economic performance. These uncertainties surrounding future trade relations and the potential for further sanctions can lead to a volatility in the financial markets, affecting stock prices, exchange rates, and investor portfolios, making it challenging for financial institutions to attract investment and manage risk effectively. So, what are Australia's reactions towards China's sanctions? Let's take a look at the following slides. Australia filed a World Trade Organization case in December 2018, arguing that China's tariffs violated the rules and were unjustified. However, according to Yao, a Beijing-based international law analyst, China's tariffs on Australian barley are not in violation of CHAFTA, seeing as Australia, on the other hand, is selling barley to China at a lower price than its domestic market price, leading to the disadvantage of Chinese barley growers and harvest dealers. As Australia grapples with the impact of reduced trading volume with China, there's growing urgency to diversify its trade partnerships. Australia has embarked on an ambitious diversification strategy, leveraging various trade agreements as shown in this slide to expand its market reach. These agreements provide opportunities for Australia to access new markets and reduce its reliance on China. A notable example of Australia's diversification efforts is its barley exports. Between June 2022 and June 2023, Saudi Arabia emerged as the leading importer of Australian barley. As of the current state of affairs, there have been notable developments in the trade relationship between China and Australia, signaling potential improvements in bilateral relations. Firstly, in April, Australia made the decision to temporarily suspend its WTO complaint against China regarding its imposition of barley duties. This move suggests a willingness on Australians' parts to engage in diplomatic dialogue and seek constructive solutions to trade disputes. Secondly, a significant development occurred when China lifted tariffs on Australian barley imports, effective from 5th of August 2023. This decision by China to remove tariffs on barley imports is a positive step that indicates a thawing of tensions and a potential improvement in the overall trade relationship between the two countries. In response to China's decision, Australia has expressed its welcome and approval of this outcome. Additionally, Australia has expressed hope that a similar process may follow regarding the tariffs on Australian wine, indicating a desire for further positive developments in the trade relationship. Overall, while challenges and differences remain, the temporary suspension of the WTO complaint and the lifting of tariffs on barley imports are encouraging signs of progress and cooperation between the two nations. Next, I'll be providing some recommendations for both China and Australia to prevent similar trade tensions in the future. Firstly, it's crucial for both China and Australia to prioritize understanding and addressing the needs and concerns of their trade partners. This requires open communication, mutual respect, and a willingness to compromise. Australia's challenge of balancing economic ties with China while maintaining strategic relations with other countries such as US should be approached with careful diplomacy and cooperation. In terms of expanding market reach, both countries should actively seek to diversify their export markets to reduce reliance on any single trading partner. While China remains a significant market for Australia, exploring opportunities in countries like India, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia can help mitigate risk and enhance economic resilience. This strategy not only fosters economic growth, but also promotes stability and security. Next, political representatives from both countries should exercise caution in diplomacy when discussing sensitive political topics or expressing opinions publicly. Training and guidance should be provided to political representatives on diplomatic protocols, cultural sensitivities, and effective communication strategies. This can help to ensure that public statements and expressions of opinion are delivered thoughtfully and in alignment with diplomatic objectives. Media outlets, on the other hand, including news companies like ABC News, should adhere to professional standards and guidelines to avoid using misleading or inflammatory language that could exacerbate tensions between countries. Accurate and balanced reporting is essential to promote understanding rather than sensationalist rhetoric. In addition, fostering public education about media literacy and critical thinking skills can empower individuals to discern reliable information from sensationalism or misinformation. In conclusion, the trade tensions between China and Australia represent a complex and dynamic relationship fraught with challenges and opportunities. As we've explored throughout this presentation, these tensions have been influenced by a myriad of factors, including geopolitical differences, economic competition, and policy disagreements. Despite the challenges, there is room for optimism and constructive engagement. Moving forward, by understanding and addressing the needs and concerns of their trade partners, seeking to diversify export markets, exercising caution and diplomacy in political discourse, and promoting responsible media practices, both countries can navigate the complexities of their trade relationship more effectively. By working together to overcome challenges and seize opportunities, China and Australia can pave the way for a more prosperous and harmonious future. This is the end of the presentation, and this is the list of references. Hope you enjoyed this presentation, and thanks for staying with me.